Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Wrestling World Talks with Dan and Mac.
Welcome to PWA Talks. I'm your host, Dan Park, joined again, as always, by my host, Mac, and also my best friend for over 20 years on this. Not really much has gone on this week, I guess. It's been not an eventful week whatsoever. Nothing has gone on at all, I guess, world-wise. Of course, I'm kidding. Of course. Of course. I mean, look, we're the last few months has just been a complete disaster as far as things have gone with certain aspects of the campaign that this person was running. But eventually they had to pull the plug. And I think that they made the right decision. And Rich Shirtnam is no longer the host of the morning show at WFN at WZLX. Shirtenlieb, excuse me. Shirtenlieb. Rich Shirtenlieb is no longer the host of morning shows.
Take 5. So for those that are not in the know with local radio, as it were, WZLX is a radio station in Boston, and Rich Shirtenlieb was on a very popular morning drive. Well, I shouldn't even say that. It started as an afternoon drive show with co-host Fred Toucher. It's a Toucher and Rich show. And they ended up on Morning Drive on WBCN, which was an alternative rock station. They then went to 98.5 The Sports Hub, local Boston sports radio channel, because of mergers and layoffs and platform changes, all that stuff. Very successful show. A lot of drama went on behind the scenes, especially the last few years on that show. Rich ended up leaving, got a job, as Dan has said, at WZLX, which is another radio station in the Boston area, and did not even make it as long as...
Oh, that's Daniel McDanielson.
Not Daniel McDanielson, but David Lee Roth. Did not even make it as long as the unsuccessful David Lee Roth show.
That's not true, because Roth made it less than 3 months.
I thought he made 6 months.
No.
Roth, right, so barely longer than David Lee Roth. I apologize.
Yeah, barely longer, because they started Lee Roth in January of 2006, and then they hired Opie and Anthony to replace David Lee Roth in April. That was a very quick turnover. Because, as I have said it... What was that?
That show was awful.
What was?
The Rock show.
Oh, it was terrible. It was the worst. I'm not saying that...
It was up there.
I'm not saying Rich's show was as bad as that, but it wasn't as... And maybe I'll send this to Toucher. He might give us some play. Freddie T, how are you? It was funny in a group chat. I did mention to myself that I was, as we were comparing ourselves with this program, and I said, I'm definitely Toucher of this program. And not because of why I think that you were funny when you said,
bitches,
I know my place. I'm like, don't make me think that it's like I'm saying that I'm lead because I'm lead chair. It's because of the fact that if you know Toucher, he's a miserable, pessimistic prick, just like myself. So
I more said it because at the time, and especially those that are in the know in the Boston radio scene, especially, on their show, the Toucher and Rich show, Fred was the voice of the show. And Rich did have his own voice, don't get me wrong, but he was more known for the behind the scenes stuff, the production stuff, things of that nature, which everybody who listens or watches our show at this point pretty much knows that's what I do on our show.
Yes.
Meanwhile, you are more the voice of the show. So that's where I was just like, I kind of know my place. I wasn't trying to be, I was trying
No,
to
I
be funny,
wasn't-
but I
No,
also
I-
said
I-
right before
I-
that I am funnier than Rich. So
Yes,
there
you
you
are
go.
funnier, really. That's for sure. And I wasn't also saying that I was Toucher and throwing my weight around and being like, well, I'm the hose. Like, no. I've always considered like this is kind of and it's very hard to have a partner sometimes as long doing something like this. With Mac, it's extremely easy. With John, it was easy. It's one of those deals of if you have the right kind of partner to work with, it's not really even like working. Like that's the way I feel like with this show. It's not really a job. It's just like I get to bullshit with a friend for a couple of hours a week and mostly talk about wrestling, but also be able to dive into really what else we want to. Which kind of, when I was thinking about the Rich thing, because it brought up the David Lee Roth thing, it also brought up immediately something that also got that came up on my algorithm was, do you remember when G4 got relaunched by Comcast a couple of years back?
unfortunately,
And it lasted less than like a year?
Yeah.
Because
I
they didn't
go ahead, say it.
they didn't realize that G4 just doesn't work in this type of platform anymore, because you can go on any streaming service, you can go on Twitch, you can go on YouTube and watch anybody be playing the same video games that you guys are or in tech that you guys are going to be talking about. So that nobody has to watch a program with you talking on and on about how and reviewing a video game, when somebody can literally go watch someone playing that very said game right now. It just, that system just doesn't work. But Comcast,
I think it's also because
hey, let's bring this back.
they also
No.
took a lot of the people out of what made it popular in the first place.
Yes. They
Seriously,
didn't bring back.
Olivia Munn.
Yes, exactly. They didn't bring back Olivia Munn. They didn't bring back Morgan Webb.
Sergio Underwood.
Morgan Webb. Yes, it was. They didn't bring back. They brought back the other guy from X Play, not the one that everybody cared about. But they brought back.
exactly.
It's like the other one, and they brought Froskin, who did. Oh, but they did bring Xavier Woods in from WWE, so that I felt like was a smart play. But I still was like, why are they doing this again? And that seems to be kind of a common thread. Like it just seems like sometimes where it's just, well, people have been nostalgic of this. They'll be nostalgic. We'll bring this back. It's like, no, you don't understand. There's no marketplace for that anymore. And I felt like, and that's kind of what happened with ZLX, because ZLX fired a popular morning team. They brought Rich in. 6 months later, they fire Rich. And that's awesome because, too, the terrestrial radio business is literally on its ass and has no idea how to get out of it. Unless you're in sports radio.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, if you're sports or talk or stuff like that, you probably have a decent, I don't want to say future, but a decent living, I'll say maybe. Whereas, like there's a station down here out of Connecticut that we pick up. There's another station, the Shark on Long Island, that we pick up, and both integrate songs. And
yes.
I think they integrate enough segments that are, I guess, engaging, I don't know, like kind of to a point when I listen anyways. Whereas like Rich, it was all over the place. And then they added music, which I think was to kind of buy him time, honestly. And it still felt flat to me. It's Rich. Like, okay, cool. You do a lot of cool stuff. You do a lot of cool segments. Don't get me wrong. But once the segment's over, I'm not really listening to you anymore. I'm listening to Fred. It's just
like that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, because, and I was listening to an old Opie and Anthony clip the other day, actually, because I enjoy listening to. Yeah. And there was this clip that Opie said. He's just like, if you're a morning guy and you have to play, like, even if you're at a rock station and you have to play a couple of songs in the morning, that means you suck. You should probably get out of the business. It's like, which, you think about like Greg Hill, you think about like Charles Laquadara, all those guys, and Howard, all those guys, they got free roam. And even Toucher and Rich, when they went to BCN in the morning, they shifted to that too. And if you have enough talent, you can get away with it. And it's now about talk, because music on the radio now, it just doesn't work. Everybody's heard the same songs, especially for like classic rock. They only play the same 25 songs. And then it's like, okay, maybe we'll throw in, a B-side from Led Zeppelin, like from 1978.
Well,
like from,
looking at like, just using me as an example at this point, when I first started driving, especially, because let's be real, a lot of the people that listen to radio these days, it's when they're driving. Hence the names.
Yes.
Morning drive, afternoon drive, mid-morning lunch, like whatever the hell they call that one. It's not even a drive at that point. You're listening mostly in the morning, mostly in the afternoon, early evening. And, again, to your point, who's really listening to the radio anymore, especially for the songs, when, especially now, hence why I brought up when I first started driving, I don't need my CDs anymore if I want to listen to something different. I don't need to turn on the radio to find a song. I plug in my phone and it connects through the Bluetooth, and I have a cell phone service, and I can just put on YouTube. I can put on Spotify. I can put on Apple. By the way, get your podcast in those places. And I can put on
nice
other.
Nice blog.
I just see what I did there. Yeah. I'm sorry, Dave has something to say.
It might. I don't know. It might be zero.
Might be zero. But I'm able to do all of that. I can turn on a song. I can turn on a podcast. They now have like Alexa in the car that could say, Alexa, turn on this song, and she'll go right to it. Like, I don't need the radio as much anymore. And that's the downside to some of these channels or radio channels, stations, whatever, where it's like, okay, I am able to do all of that. Why do I need you? Because all you're doing is playing a song every 5 minutes. All you're doing is talking about maybe something that might interest me, but if it doesn't, I'm immediately turning you off. Whereas in sports radio, I'm not going to turn it off until I get my fill of sport radio that you're discussing. So using Boston radio stations still as the example, I know, for example, especially in spring, summer, and into fall, Tony Maserati does the baseball reporters from 6 to 7. If I'm driving around 6 to 7, I'll turn it on. Hell, even if I'm not driving around 6 to 7, I might still turn it on. I'm able to do that. But when you have I'm just going to say a B show that you're playing music every so often and your overall bits don't interest me, I'm not going to tune into your channel anymore. And to your point, like, especially if we look at like alternative rock, stuff like that, there is that downside, because how many of those now exist in Boston radio at this point? I remember there used to be
zero.
Like 10. Yeah.
There was 3 top ones. There was FNX. Then there was AAF, and there was BCN. Those were like the holy trinity.
Yep.
And then they just start getting plucked up by one. It was maddening when, Rich, I remember when Toucher and Rich did like the first show after they announced that the format was going to switch. And Fred said it best. He's just like, look, he's like, if your most requested song and your top rated song on an alternative rock station is still Interstate Love Song by Stone Temple Pilots, there's a problem. And he was right.
Oh yeah.
He was right. 100%. And it's just music changed ultimately. I think that, and it's a tough gig. That's a tough gig, and because I worked on that side of it. And I worked with a really good programmer with Caroli, who is probably like as far as a rock jock is concerned, and I don't use that word because everybody that I felt like I worked with at CCC, they were all that. They were everything that I thought the industry was. Like when I was getting into that in college, it's like every one of those guys, it was just like they fit that stereotypical mold, but in the best possible fucking way. Like, and they were talented enough where it was just like, yeah, this is why this place is the way it is. This place has character, it has charm. And, but at the same time, the format changed. The industry changed. Rock music is not as prevalent as it once was. That's why a lot of these acts like Motley Crue and a lot like Def Leppard, they're still touring and doing okay because there's nobody else out there. Even the Black Keys, who I love, I think they're a fantastic band. They had to cancel a lot of their tour dates this year because they weren't selling. And people love going to concerts. They love going, like it's all I heard of people this year. Christ almighty. Like Metallica was in town this year. So was the Rolling Stones and Pearl Jam. It was a really good concert year. But then I was looking at the prices on show days of those. I mean, I could have went to Pearl Jam for less than nothing. I could have went probably to Metallica one of those nights for a reasonable price. Prices that I probably would have paid back 20 years ago. Same thing with the Rolling Stones. Because a lot of those days that they were on was like in the middle of the week. And it just, I don't know, like the nostalgia, like it's weird because I'm definitely seeing kind of a cultural shift on some things. I've kind of had a bit of I've been looking into kind of building a sports star kind of collection, autograph collection, piece by piece over time. So 10 or 15 years ago, Mickey Mantle was, even 20, 30 years ago, considering the man died in 95, but he was always a top level, like heavy money, heavy coveted because of an entire generation. Like guy was on Life magazine. He was bigger than life as far as athletes are concerned. So I was just like, checking out the old E of Bay recently. I could buy a Mickey Mantle picture now, autographed, authenticated, all that stuff, for about $300. Yeah. And I talked with some people I talked with my uncle about it recently. And it's just like, how did this happen? Like, he's just like, the problem is that everybody that was collecting that are either dying off or they're having to downsize. And their kids are like, I don't want that shit. It's like there's that small percentage of kids, because there's things on my dad's wall that we've already discussed. I'm like, those are coming home. Like when you're ready to get rid of it, you're not selling them. They're just coming to me. Like it's not even like a thought. And that's, but I feel like that I'm kind of, there's not many collectors out there. I feel like that percentile now of people that collect and things of that nature, I feel like now are just kind of, it's a small, like, there's a lot of minimalists out there now. I feel like it's just, they don't have a lot of stuff. They just get up and go. They have that.
Can I just say that there is an irony with you saying that in front of all those boxes behind you?
Isn't it? I have now more stuff displayed though than I ever have.
Oh, I know.
Like that's to be quite honest, because trust me, in old places there were a lot more boxes around. It was a lot more packed in. Where this now, it's like I have space. I be able to do this. I don't think we'll be having any more internet issues anymore either, folks. As I as the last week, especially last Thursday, last Wednesday's recording was a complete disaster. Almost as much as a disaster as Rich's run at FNX. Oh, ZLX, excuse me. But it was. I deserve that. I did.
Listen, the buttons don't lie, okay?
I know. I deserve that. So yeah, what I ended up doing is I went to work and I was able to get a 48-foot Ethernet cable, just like, this takes care of the fucking problem. Like, this is not happening again. I'm hardwiring this. Like, from now on, it's going to be hardwired. I don't know why I thought of it sooner. I think because I was just like, it happens every so often. But last week, it was so atrocious. It was so bad. I was just like, that's it. I don't care if it's 90 feet long. I got to get it done. But yeah, I think technology-wise, that won't be an issue anymore. Tonight is just another one of those episodes, folks. And I know because you're just like, really, we're here to listen about wrestling. But considering the fact of what has really gone on, other than the local stuff, and I guess maybe it's just my way of trying to delay it and trying to go into some stuff that's not so serious. At least here in the United States, we had our elections this past Tuesday. And
cornbread, damn it, cornbread.
Yeah. A lot of people are pissed. A lot of people aren't. It's a polarizing decision. As always. I feel like in the last 8 years, though, it's just been a lot more polarizing. And I had to talk to family members today, even to check in on them, because they're taking it hard. And I remember on Saturday when we did our post-game show over on Facebook Live. Thank you, everybody who joined in, by the way. It was a really fun experience. I think that's something we're going to try to do down the line again.
Once we figured it out.
Yes, well, it's fun once you figured it out. That's right. I mean, Christ almighty. That was embarrassing. At some points, I was sitting here. I was ready to throw myself through a building. Off a building, excuse me. Because I threw off a building. Okay, let's go that level. Like I'll be on, just throw me through a building off it. Because again, Mac is, and the funny thing is we both work in IT, and there's a lot of aspects in IT I can do. And then there's several like fine tuning settings of things where I'm just kind of inept at, where I just don't think about I'm more of a big picture. I can fix like the big picture of things, but the little fine tuning, sometimes quick little settings of just like, and I'm sitting there having to just Google everything. And I'm just like, well, what am I looking at here? And, yeah. And that went on for about 45 minutes until we finally were able to get on live. And, Mac again, proving again why he saves my ass on more than one occasion. With not just podcasts, but just life in general.
You were written off yourself.
Oh, I so was.
I was like, oh, we got it.
I just had that look. I'm just like, I'm ready to kill myself. Like, I'm just so... Because that's the level I am, folks. It's just like, when I could go from really high because I'm really amped up about something, and then if the thing is not going the way I want it to, or if it's just I feel like that I'm letting people down or something, I just want to. God, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Because it's a combination of Irish guilt and just self-hatred. So it's just. I walk into my bathroom and look at myself in the mirror. You're a fucking failure and you know it. And then it's repeating in your
I
head.
don't know what's darker,
Time and
this
time again.
conversation or the election. Shit.
Well, hey. At least I'm being honest with the public.
This is true. This is true.
No, but I want to thank everybody at least for joining, and my words at the end to kind of lead everybody out, because I warned everybody. I just said, don't gloat, because there's going to be people out there that are really going to be affected by the results, because I damn well knew a week and a half to 2 weeks ago how things were going to go. Yeah. I did not expect it to be the way that I did, because look at the last couple of elections, even before, I hate even saying his name, but he is going to be the president of the United States, so it's commonplace. But Donald Trump, when Donald Trump first, even before when Trump ran, there were a lot of times that these elections were marathons where you didn't know. Really, at times, it took days to figure shit out. And
I mean, listen, we can go back even further to Bush Gore. It took months.
Yes, it took months. It took months before we really figured out what was going to happen. And, there was still a part of me that thought Gore should have fought longer, because I felt like he had a legitimate gripe. And also, if anything, he had the chance, I really think, to kind of, I don't know why he didn't fight more on that, but who knows?
Well, if I remember correctly, one of the cases got thrown out in Florida. So I think for him, that was kind of it.
Right, that's fair. But it's just because you think about Donald in that situation, Christ.
Yeah, seriously.
Considering what happened in Georgia back 4 years ago, and Nevada and Arizona, and I remember making jokes. I'm like, Christ, Nevada can count hundreds and thousands of cards, chips, checks, cash in seconds, but it takes them 3 fucking days to count votes.
Because nobody had any money on it in Vegas.
Oh, I know. Well, actually, there was a lot of that was
I'm kidding.
that was how I was figuring out too that this is how things are going to go, because the betting lines were going crazy. I'm like, you're kidding, right? But about 2 weeks before, I knew it was going to be the way it was going to be. I just did not expect it to go the way and the amount that it did. But here we are on the verge of another 4 years of what the fuck is he going to do today? And we survived the first one.
That?
Yep.
Like, what is that?
Pretty much it. That's it. And I understand people's concerns. I understand people's gripes. I understand people's fears. I get all that. I realize that. And the only thing I can say is that we just gotta hope for the best on this one. Like, it's just, I can't, like, there's nothing really I can say else to kind of, what am I going to do to calm people's fears, right? Because there's certain, I got issues, right? I'll be the first one to admit it. I have a disability and I'm concerned in certain aspects of that. But I know there's a lot more people that have a lot more going on other than a blind thing, something, like just a lot of things that they have going on. And there's a lot of things and a lot of concerns for loved ones and partners. It's a mess. And I completely sympathize with people, and I know that there's a lot of people, and I get there's a lot of people in fear, and I realize that, and I understand that, and I think there's certain aspects that I'm really not too concerned about with him, and then there are certain aspects I am just like, okay, like it's just I'm probably gonna hate the outcome. Really, I'm gonna really hate the outcome.
Well, let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Yes.
Because I don't want to just focus on wholly negative issues at this point. With
Oh, I know, but it's just the elephant in the room.
it is, and no, but hear me out though. So
No, I know. I'm sorry.
no, you don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in we'll say 2020, right? Not 2019 when COVID started,
Right.
but 2020 when it really started to hit the States. Let's say that the COVID response was just better in general. We'll just kind of say it that way, right? Would you feel the same way? Because, and before you answer, let me explain why I'm asking. Because I think for a lot of people, it was this COVID response. Yeah, I think he says dumb shit, but who doesn't? Joe Biden certainly does. Kamala Harris certainly did.
Oh
So,
my God.
I just feel that a lot of people focus a lot on that and less so on some of his policies. Because, listen, he says stupid things. I think all politicians do at any given time, honestly. But let's continue to devil's advocate before you give an answer here, because I just think it's really important here to kind of differentiate the opinions. I think if his COVID response personally was better, he probably would have got reelected in 2020 versus being reelected now. The reason I say that is because if you look at his policies real quick, were they wholly negative? No. Were they wholly positive? Not really. But some of the people that I've talked to about this have kind of echoed this. The economy is worse than it was when Trump left office. I understand part of that is a rebuild from Trump era policies and from a COVID response aspect. But again, the economy was in a good place. 4 years later, Biden is in office, the economy sucks. And a lot of people have lost their jobs in this economy. Yes, Biden is able to add jobs, but the economy still is not where it was under Trump. So, having said that, go ahead and give your answer.
I think he would have been reelected 4 years ago if COVID was handled better.
I agree.
Joe was definitely, I think, the right candidate in 2020, without question. Even though I think Joe was the right candidate in 2016, to be quite honest.
Had he run, I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yes, if Joe Biden ran in 2016, Donald Trump would have never won in 2016. It wouldn't have happened.
I 100% agree.
Joe would have won in 2016 and probably won 2020, and then he would just be he would be kind of like Reagan was at the last couple of years, where Reagan he was there, but he wasn't.
Yeah, he totally could have dialed it in, yeah.
Especially with like the Iran Contra situation, he was just like, I don't recall. It's because his pockets were lined.
Nancy put my pants on this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, dear.
I could just play the same hole in golf every time because it's all new to me.
Shit, that sounds like Biden too.
It's unfortunate though that there's a portion of people that I had to check in with about this. It's like, and it's terrible we've reached that point.
Yeah.
I understand the hatred for the guy. I've never hated Trump, and I'm not endorsing him either. I am not. I did not vote for him.
Yeah, I don't like him, and I don't vote for him. But I mean,
I don't. I didn't vote for him. I don't hate him.
Yeah.
Do I like him? It's hard because he makes me laugh. That's the thing.
I know.
Like, that's the thing. It's like there are things that he says that I'm laughing at. And it's like, if he said that to me in a private setting, I'd be laughing my balls off.
Yep.
And that's the problem.
Yep.
It's like there are things that he says, but that's the problem. Also, the problem is I know I'm a juvenile. But secondly, the biggest problem of that is the fact that he is also juvenile and he's running the country. And that's part of the problem. And that's part of, I think, the concept that people kind of have. What did he learn from mistakes that he made the first time? He might have. I don't know. I don't think he's going to have as many a lot of the people in his cabinet were part of the problem.
Oh, yeah.
And he knew that. I think he knows that now, considering the majority of them went out and immediately got book deals after he's done. And
Because I'm not booked.
pretty much tossed every gossip that could on the guy. Do I think that there's things that he's vilified for that? And there's been some real good people on the Democratic side too that have even said, we've gone a little too far and vilified. Like Bill Maher. Bill Maher has kind of said, we got to stop really vilifying this guy as much as he's getting vilified. Because there's, and again, there's family members that I know that are really concerned about it. There's family members that, that threaten to leave the country if things get bad enough. I'm really concerned for that. But at the same time, I understand.
You know what it is for me, and I don't want to cut you off here, but it's an important thing that I think to say, especially after that comment. And maybe I'm alone in this. I don't know, but I always feel like that to me is like kind of a joke, right? Like I might say it in passing, but I'm typically joking. I know that there are people that are completely serious about it, or
he's dead.
serious to a
This
point.
person is dead serious. I know
he is because I know who you're talking about. But
they have the resources to do it too. So
right, but that still plays a role because it's like I question why, right? Not for that person specifically, because I have a feeling I know who you're talking about, obviously.
Of course,
But
yes.
there are others that I question why they say it because it's like, well, how does his presidency directly affect you? Right? Like the person you're talking about, I understand that a hell of a lot more than
100%.
somebody else who is just, we'll just say affluent, right? They have money. It doesn't affect them. They're in a red state now. And I just wonder like how a Trump presidency directly affects that person. There are other people that, yeah, I totally understand it directly affects them because of Trump's comments and his policies and stuff like that. And they might have some fear there. And I understand and respect that. But that's not everybody, especially the people that are saying shit like that. But go ahead. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I did tell the person though, confident because I had to check in on them today.
Yeah.
And I told them confidently, and I just said, so this is your chance to finally just fulfill that destiny and just go to Washington. Because he's always toyed around with it. He's always thought about it. He's always, I think, had an interest in it. I mean, he was actually working on the campaigns for Ross Perot in 1992 and 1996. And if he ever and he's probably mad at me now because I outed him for that. But of course, he doesn't know who I'm talking about. So,
Well, that nobody else knows.
he would know now, but at the same time, he knows it's vague enough where it's not like he's getting embarrassed by it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, and I mean this wholeheartedly and seriously, if you are listening to this, you need to run. You need to go. You need to go. You need to be able to be a beacon of hope for certain communities. You need to be able, I think, to translate your position probably better than most, because that I think is a problem. And I'm saying this to most people now, that the best way that you can combat any of this, the best way that you can fight what you feel is injustice is run for office. I'm saying that now because we have an entire generation of youngsters, I feel like, that just are giving up. I work in the public school system. It's hard. These kids already feel like that they have no future, and they're 16, 17, 18 years old. And that is hard to watch. That's hard to fathom. That's hard to look at. And I see it every goddamn day.
Yep.
And the fact is that I'm a slacker. Always have been. And I've always been someone that, and yeah, of course, Strickland would be yelling at me in the hallways. That's the problem with you, Berg. You're a slacker. Did you ever have hair? Did you ever fucking have hair? Come on. But the problem is that I'm able to, and I've always been someone that has been able to retain information well. I study a lot. I read a lot. The problem is that most of the stuff that I read about is professional wrestling and sports. As Stephanie says, sports and wrestling, wrestling and sports. It's like, yeah. And because the reason why is for that is because at the end of the day, I don't need to get terrified or have to think about like the free world or what's going on in Afghanistan, what's going on in Iraq, what's going on in other parts of the world. I live in ignorant bliss, and that's my own choosing. I know kind of political strategy a little bit. I know like it's a little bit of politics kind of. I'm starting to kind of get more educated in geopolitics and that type of stuff over the years.
Right.
But it's never been something that I've been into. But I just, this person especially, but I told them, I said, you need to do this because 30 years ago, I was telling the person, it's just like, and I'm 11 years old and I'm looking at him, I'm just like, you're going to be a congressman, you're going to be a governor, you're going to be a senator, you're going to be doing something. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I get it. You enjoy going out on the weekends with a couple of cocktails with friends, and that's nice and all dandy and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, could still do that in Washington and be able to make policy changes and do things. I think that it's like, and he's perfect for it. He is. It's like that's kind of, it's, and I understand the fear of it and all that stuff, because it's like, oh, your life then becomes an open book and things like that. Look, the guy who just got elected president is also a convicted felon who's literally going to pardon himself on January 20th. I mean, so if he can get elected president again by also like a massive majority of the population, all bets are off. Like anything in this country can happen. Literally, this happened.
Twice. This happened twice.
If Vince McMahon was doing the color commentating for this, he'd be like, anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation. Also, considering also that Vince, is that a problem?
No.
One or is okay.
No. We're good.
Every time I hear one of those bings, folks, I'm just like, is that a problem?
You have PTSD from that noise.
Exactly. Either that,
I think
from
everybody has
work.
PTSD from that noise, honestly.
It's from work, and it's also it's from doing this too. It's just like you hear that noise, you're like, oh, what's going on? God, I even forgot what I was going to say.
Windows Defender has detected that you're a douchebag.
Oh, of course. That's every day, though.
Yeah,
Like-
it is every day. That's the problem. That is the problem. By the way,
Yes.
for that joke and Windows Defender. But anyways, yeah, I listen. I to kind of like segue a little bit. I don't disagree. I think the person that you're talking about would be an excellent politician because of not only the way he talks and carries himself, but also just his career path in general. Would in my opinion, make him incredibly sought after to fill that kind of a role. And to your point, like, yeah, like I know the dude likes to party and everything, but it's like party in DC, man. Like,
Yeah.
just do
DC's a
it.
fun town, man.
Yeah.
It's a really
Exactly.
fun town. It's like he'd be perfect there. Like it just, I hope he does it. I hope he does it for his sake and kind of just says, you know what, fuck this. It just says, I'm not going to take this anymore. I got to do this myself.
Just the one thing I will say, segue somewhat again a little bit. If he ever does that, I would love to meet AOC. I know. I have a few other people that I know would also love to meet AOC. I would also like to send Mandalorian Bobert. Just saying. And
we went to go do the tour of the Capitol, and I'm just like, so is AOC going to be around? And he's like, we're going on a tour of the most like the one of the most sacred halls in all of the United States, and you just want to go meet AOC. I'm just like, well, I mean, if she's there, like that'd be a bonus.
Yeah.
He's like, ugh. It's so funny because he just looks at me and he's just like, what am I going to do with you? Again, because it's that slacker. Like, it's just, because I want to be in radio. I wanted to do this for a living. I want to be in broadcasting. So it's just pretty much my prerequisite is just like, well, he likes to smoke pot and he likes to like watch cartoons. So pretty much that's in sports and wrestling. So wrestling
that just means she likes what I like. I mean, listen, man. We're in the same boat. Probably why we get along so well. Because we both are just,
it's just
stoner, slacker, video game, cartoon watchers, whatever, man. I don't know.
I couldn't be a fucking politician. I just can't.
Because
Because
funny. I could.
I just can't do it.
I could,
I
but
can't.
I just.
Well, now you can't because like you kind of have the grasp of it, with what you do in your regular job.
It's not even that.
I'm trying not to like throw that at you. Like I'm not trying to say what position you're doing. I'm just like with your regular job because you're in.
Management. Yeah, I'm in management.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
Yeah, listen. It's just not even that. It's just, I don't know. Like I probably could do it depending. I never would want to be like high up like a president. Like holy fuck, no thank you. Kill me now. But like state senator or something like that. Yeah, it's probably doable. Probably. I mean, listen, if people like Marjorie Taylor Greene can do it. Like that George Santos guy from New York who like lied his way in basically. Like I could probably do it though. But say la vie. No thank you.
Oh yeah, it's just it's gonna be a fun 4 years. Christ. Like MSNBC is going to be highly rated now. It's going to be like one of the top rated networks.
CNN again.
God, no one watches CNN.
I'm kidding, anyways. Saying it because I know Trump hates it.
MSNBC and Fox News, you see MSNBC right now. It's pretty much their like morning. Everybody's wearing black with candles lit, and then over on Fox News, everybody's got confetti. They got Coke on the table. Like everybody's having a good time.
Oh shit!
Like they're just like, yeah. It's just It's
I just
it's
need him
it's
to do another commercial with the eagle or whatever and have it flap its wings in his face. Listen, I know there's going to be people that are listening, watching, whatever, and they're going to be like, oh, these guys hate Trump, fucking liberals, whatever. Dude, I'm
I
like,
hate everybody.
I'm a centrist at this
I
point.
hate everybody,
Yeah,
folks.
I mean,
I
I'm right down the middle at this point. Like, I don't hate the guy. I think he's kind of a stooge, but I recognize the fact that the economy was doing well until COVID, and that's
Yeah.
in no small part to policies that
I
he
had money.
introduced.
I had money in my pocket, and a lot of other people I know had money in their pocket back then.
Yeah,
And a lot of people that I know now, and 4 years later, 3 or 4, 5 years, 6 years later, they're hurting.
yeah.
They're hurting. And it's the squeeze that I feel like we've just been put on. And it's so difficult for us to kind of, because I'm a working man. Matt gets too. We're both working men. We both work. We get up every day. We fucking grind it out. And I would love to be doing this full time. I would love to be in a position like a JD from New York or
Oh,
another,
fuck that.
I like JD. JD's guy. I turned the corner. I've turned the
still
corner
have him.
because I mean, it's just his rants on AEW now have just been hysterical.
Yeah, but that's like a dime a dozen at this point. I feel like
So
everybody rants about AEW.
So my question now is, since everything's been finalized and things like that, is Hulk Hogan going to be at the inauguration?
Jesus Christ!
Is Joe Rogan going to be at the inauguration?
Safe bet.
Is the Undertaker going to be at the inauguration? Like, just think about that. It's like, wow, Batista has never beaten Taker either now. Like, never.
Wow.
He's never beaten Taker. Like, he's just never, like, Kamala Harris, he back there.
I don't know.
Lost.
It might be zero.
Never beaten Taker. Never beaten The Undertaker in a big match situation. Lost at WrestleMania. The same WrestleMania where Donald Trump was represented by Bobby Lashley and beat Vince McMahon. The Undertaker beat Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship and continued the streak.
Ooh, rare.
Is that the one you won money on? Did you win money that year?
I forget.
There was 1 year you won money on the streak. I
I
remember
forget
that.
what year that was.
Yeah, there was a year you won money. I forgot what year.
Well, I mean, that person was a fucking idiot, anyways.
Ooh, rare.
I mean, listen,
Oh man.
easiest money ever made on that guy, man. He's not gonna win this year. Oh, you want to make a bet?
Are you
Yeah.
fucking stupid?
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
gonna bet against the Undertaker right now? What? Like, oh god, it's like
wish-
draft. It
It
they-
was. It really was. Yeah. It's like DraftKings.
it's like, what is this?
That is an idiot. I'm sorry.
He was so dumb.
I'm
Like, it's just, this is one of the dumbest bets in the history of bets.
I remember you
It's
were trying
like,
to talk him out of it too, and I was telling you to
I
shut
was,
the hell
because
up.
I'm like, you're gonna lose fucking money.
I'm like, shut up.
I wasn't doing that to keep money out of your pocket. I was doing that because it was
Keep money in
fucking
his.
dumb. It was fucking dumb.
It was.
Like, that's the thing. I was trying to talk him out of being dumb. I wasn't trying to talk about out of you getting any money. Like, because you didn't. It's not like
It's
not like you've ever just.
The
you know,
thing is this though, like I almost said you want to bet matter of factly. I almost never mean it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, you want to make a bet? And this dude's like, yeah. And I remember it like having this face, like, are you fucking serious right now?
And I'm just like,
And
no,
I'm like,
dude, put
fine.
your fucking money away.
Yeah, I was like,
Put
okay,
your
fine.
fucking money away.
Yeah. He's like taking his wallet out, counting his cash. I'm like, put it on the fucking table then, bro.
And then I'm like, you know what? And then I'm like, and then at the end of it, I'm just like, you know what? He was fucking stupid enough. Take his fucking money. Like, that's just how it is. It's just.
I don't
Oh,
think
God.
I've ever seen you laugh at an Undertaker win before, after, since, whatever.
Oh God.
Just
it
because
was
of
up
that.
there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because I was just looking at him and I'm like, you fucking idiot. Like, you're gonna bet against this? You're gonna bet against this right now? Like, if it was the Brock match, you would have lost money, but it was like, oh, well.
But it wasn't though. If it was the Brock match, I wouldn't have said anything.
No, the Brock match, you would have been like, I think I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah, but like any other year, like I would, even the Roman Reigns year, I still would have done it.
Yeah. But I would have been talking to you then. I would have been like, no, don't do this deal. Don't do this deal.
Yeah.
I said,
Probably because I would have said it for that year too. The only year I would have said no would have been the Brock year. I wouldn't have been like.
I would have
nah,
said, I would have told you no on the Roman year just because I'm like, look, we're
Thank
already going
God,
to
I
be really,
get it.
we're already going to be crying at the end of this thing. Do you really need to be losing money too?
Yeah.
Because that was the year, like I was, oh my God, I was in tears at the end of that. And it was just, because number one, it was just, I knew what it was coming in. I'm like, this is probably it. And then I saw how bad he looked. I'm like, oh God. And I just remember I got super high. Like I was really fucking high. But I remember watching that and I remember again, it's just when he put the fucking coat, the hat and the gloves, it was like Niagara Falls. The fucking thing is just going. Yeah. It's going. Because you knew what it meant. And then of course he comes back a year, that was one retirement actually I was happy though that he came back from, because then he had the match with AJ at the Boneyard match. So it was like, okay, he left on a great note because, and then he beat Cena in like 90 seconds. So I was like, okay, that's cool too. Like, all right, I'm all right with this already. But then Goldberg happened. So I'm like, oh no.
No, we didn't.
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Nope.
I was in Bizarro World. That didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Nope.
Hey, you know what though? Those Saudi shows are night and day to what they were. Those first couple of years.
Yeah,
were
we
freak
talked
shows.
about that when we did the recap. So it's
we did,
completely different.
but it was just it needs to be stated because I keep I get reminded again of the Goldberg match and I'm just like, ugh. But no, it was
didn't fucking happen. Told you that.
I know.
I'm reminding you, goddammit.
I'm so mad at the mail service today. You have no idea.
Why? What was supposed to come in today?
So I finally ordered my Other Side Jackass t-shirt.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And I got my Other Side Jackass t-shirt, but they also had, same place. If anybody wants to go on eBay to Extreme Wrestling Shirts on eBay, they have the Other Side Jackass shirt, but they also had the 1991 Royal Rumble and 1992 Royal Rumble portraits as t-shirts as well. So I was just like, I gotta have those. So I'm just sitting there. I'm just, but this is of course the famous posters with all the performers from those events, which are iconic. Which the 91 Rumble has a special place in my heart because that was the first real vivid memory of me being kind of hooked. Like that was because 89, 90, it was still kind of like vivid. But 91 Royal Rumble was the real one where it was just like, ever since I've just been obsessed.
Right.
So it's the kind of the goalpost for me of just like, yeah, that is Genesis. That was when everything was written. The testament has begun. Like that was kind of where everything shaped. Yes. It's actually perfect with both there.
I know.
This is perfect.
Oh, shit.
But it was, what's funny is that everybody looks at 91 Rumble and they're just like, it really wasn't that good. I'm just like, it was amazing. Shut up. because again, I look at it with rose-colored glasses because, of course, it was the very first event. If I go back and look at it now, it's like, well, yeah, obviously Orient Express and Rockers was the best match of the show. But Warrior lost. That was pretty cool. It's fucking the scepter right in his face, which I think he really got hit in the face with it because you just hear that pop and when he got hit with it. It was just like, yes! Slut.
Shut up, bitches!
You're just mad because I'm talking about the Warrior negatively again.
Not even mad.
You're just like jogging in place again, doing your little. Speak to me, Warriors.
That's kind of how I feel, if anything, actually. I just, like, listen, like, at the end of the day, like, we didn't know any better. It's.
Did we? Did we?
Shut up.
Like, well, yeah, I mean, you think about that way about Hogan, but at least Hogan, you kind of just looked at now, and do you look at Hogan more fondly now, or do you just still like, ugh?
I want to so bad, and then he just opens his mouth or does something else that's just like.
Well, you separate if you separate that because I get that. I understand that.
Separate Terry
you
from
separate
Hulk and
that
blah, blah,
from
blah, blah, blah.
Hulk.
No, man.
You know, like is it? Do you still? Can you watch a promo from him from like 84 or like 85, 86, 87 and just be like
barely watch 84, 85, 86, 87, so no. No. I mean, listen, he has more coherent promos than fucking Ultimate Warrior ever did, whatever. But like I just it's hard to watch back then anyways, because they were still in that like caricature phase, if you will. Like, Macho was just as guilty of it back then, too. Like Macho cut good promos compared to the other two. But, like, oh, yeah, I'm just gonna yell at the mic, Mean Gene. It's like, god damn. You know, and, like, that was the time. They all yelled into the effing microphone. And
his matches were fucking great, though.
They were. Absolutely,
he did
they
have,
were.
His Savage might have had one of my favorite debut matches at the Garden at Madison Square Garden ever. It was against like Rick McGraw, and every person in the building that night wanted to kill him. And he was literally out there for 2 minutes, and they wanted to kill him. And it's just like, yeah, this fucking guy is over. He's money. Like he's in New York 2 minutes, and everybody wants to kill him already. It's just like he's going to be printing fucking money. Like, if you saw that in 1985, 86, when he first went into that, you would have just said, fuck this. Like, this guy is a megastar, like beyond megastar. And it wasn't just a character. It was just like, you felt like that was him in real life anyways. And it kind of was. Think about all the shit that happened with Liz.
Yeah.
Later on. She was just a fucking madman. Which, that was... What was funny was when me and John and Steph were talking about it, we all were in agreement that Hogan had nothing to do, fuck all, with him to do with him and Liz breaking up. Like, not a goddamn thing. I felt like he always got blamed for that, and it was just like, there's a lot of things we can blame Hogan for. There's a lot of things. A lot. But not Liz and Macho's relationship breaking up. I don't think he was sitting there and being like, I think you should leave him. Like, I don't think it's a good thing, brother. Like, brother, dude. I just don't think he's calling Liz brother, dude, because he doesn't know anything.
Come on, brother, man.
brother, dude. Oh God. Like it's, you're right though, in one sense, because you're talking about how things, it was how difficult it was in 84, 85. You can even look at the production back then. It was just
But I don't blame the production because I feel like, again, that's part of the time period as well. And there's a lot of programs that didn't have great production value back then. Yeah, there were some that, okay, did. But I feel like production, for me, production value, if you will, late 88 and going into 89 is where you see a lot of TV shows kind of up their production. Right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then that progressed throughout the 90s for a lot of programs, and obviously much further into like late 90s, early 2000s to kind of what it is now. But you know, at that time, these wrestling programs, especially WWE being the primary player at that time, because it was really the only one that had the syndication nationally at this point, or was, you know, well on its way to getting there at that point, especially in the early 80s. It's just all like go back and tell me a wrestler that did not yell into the microphone back then.
God.
I'll wait. like just the only people that did not yell into the microphone were the announcers.
Jake.
I feel like
Jake never really yelled.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Early
Jake
80s.
never really yelled. He was very soft spoken.
Yeah, right. But like Savage, he yelled. Warrior,
Savage yelled.
Hogan yelled. Piper yelled. Exactly. You know, like you do exactly.
Piper was fucking hilarious. Though.
He was.
Oh my god.
He was. Sheik yelled. Like all of them.
The great. I am the great Iranian champion, Min Shane. I will beat Hulk Hogan. I will humble him. I will put him in the camel clutch. I will break his back. Fucking national treasure that guy was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably the greatest transitional champion in the history of their industry. Like, he was champion for literally 4 weeks. And he got 40 years out of it.
He really did.
Like, that is impressive. That is impressive mileage. And he was, let's face it, he was at certain points a train wreck, but at the same time, a beloved train wreck. There was never a time where I sat there with Sheik and I was just like, oh man. Because it was just, I wanted him to do well at least, though.
Sure.
And be able to be financially secure and taken care of. Because there's so many of these guys where you're just hearing about it, you're just like, oh, they're broke? What? How are they broke? The fuck? And then you realize, oh, they didn't get paid anything, and their bodies are breaking down because they were on the road 300 days a year for 20 years.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yep.
You're like, holy shit. But then, you know, but you see guys like Hogan and Flair that have made so much money. Well, Flair, when he has financial problems, I get mad because I'm just like, are you kidding me?
See, I don't, because I feel like with Flair, he kind of like brought it on himself, honestly.
Well, that's the thing. I get mad of like, are you kidding me? We're at this point again.
Okay.
Yes. Not with because his spending is the problem. And he's been through it so many times.
I don't even think it's the spending. I think it's the fact that he's been married, like 6 times?
Oh my God. He's up there with J-Lo. Him and J-Lo should just get married now and just say, all right, well, you know, this next one will be like the 6th one or something, whatever the fuck it is.
I don't even know what number he is at.
Christ.
What was the news today about Ric Flair, by the way?
He's coming out.
The whiskey.
Oh, yeah. His own bourbon. So see that in your shelves lately. I thought you said it best. You can go ahead and say what you said. Because I thought it was perfect.
So for those that don't know, like Flair does have a couple products out there. One of them is an energy drink, by the way. I forget what it's called. I don't remember the name of his energy drink, but it was supposed to be made with like mushrooms or whatever. So my comment, basically, when I found out about the fact that Ric Flair was coming out with his own whiskey, as it were, whiskey, bourbon, you know, call it what you want. I was like, you know, hopefully that's not also made with mushrooms, because
oh God. Well, this is also the same person that came out with wings. So it's just
He's-
wings or
Dude,
whatever.
he's
Oh god.
like a caricature of himself at this point. I feel like it's to me, he is like the wrestling Donald Trump back in like the early 2000s with like Trump steaks and all that other shit. It's just-
You know,
I don't know.
I have
man.
to think about it though, compared to like Hogan, because Hogan made a lot of fucking money.
He did.
Yeah. Compared to Flair, though, Flair really didn't make the Hogan money, really. He always kind of,
Because he didn't have the strong merchandising that Hulk had.
yeah, but now he has it. So,
Yeah, but the problem
I
is he's
feel
doing
like-
it himself. That's the problem.
yeah, it's the problem, I know. You know how annoying it is, too, that he doesn't have any Mattel figures? Like, he's got these, like, so they don't have the detail or anything like that. Because you think of Ric Flair with robes and stuff like that. It's like, this is perfect. You're a toyetic figure just because of the amount of robes that you've had, all those designs. And it's just, he's with these other, like he's with, I think, the major wrestling figures guys, which they make nice stuff, but I'm not this. But it's just, it's maddening when it's just like, oh, great, you're endorsing something I'm never going to drink because I really don't drink anymore. So it's just, he had his own weed line. Never really saw that. I think it was around with Tyson's, if I'm not mistaken.
Hold on a second. Who wants Ric Flair's weed when you can buy Rob Van Dam's weed?
That's true.
Just saying.
Rob Van Dam's weed would be a lot better. Like actually, like I have bought his CBD stuff before, which
Exactly. See, you're making my point for me.
because I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just switch to CBD for a while. And it's like, no, it doesn't do the same thing. So it's like, I gotta go back to this other stuff. But no, Rob is perfect for having like the fact that at his Hall of Fame induction he handed Vince McMahon rolling papers. I'm just like, this man is a national treasure. Like it's just an absolute national treasure. And another guy that is like him and Flair, I've always thought have never gotten their absolute due. Flair never really got, I thought, the big money that he kind of deserved because you look at what he did in the NWA, WCW, which never really got featured as much as what Hogan did in the WWF. But if you look at what what Flair did in the 80s, if anybody has not seen what Ric Flair did in the 80s, I strongly suggest you look it up. Strongly suggest it. Hogan, yes, he was in front of the national stage. He was a pop culture icon. You know, he's doing Oprah, he's doing the A-Team, he's doing the movies and that type of stuff. But Flair is making towns every night, working 330 dates a fucking year, being a member of the Four Horsemen, and carrying the banner of the biggest wrestling organization in the world at that point, the establishment body of the National Wrestling Alliance. And with that, he never really got, I think, the Hogan money. He got paid a lot, but not kind of comparable to Hogan, because Hogan, I remember a joke Flair said in his book one time that made me laugh, but it also terrified me.
Now I'm scared.
So Flair and Hogan were having a conversation one, and he's just like, look, Flair looked at me, he says, I don't have 10 million in the bank like you do. And Hogan looked at him and said, 20. Like, that's, and I just, that comment, I was like, fuck, because of how much money WCW get paid him is, I guess, the rumor from what Kevin Nash said in recent, in podcasts and everything, Hulk Hogan was getting paid $1 million a month by WCW back then.
I believe it.
I mean, Brock was getting paid a lot from WWE. Mind you, there were a lot less dates. But Hogan's was an absolute ridiculous deal. But, and I remember in his contract, he got $20,000 for wearing an NWO shirt.
Like I said,
They just gave him 20 grand for wearing a shirt. And it's just like,
You know
what kind of contract is this?
You know what it was with Flair, man? I always felt that if he and like listen, like I'm not saying he should have waited, but I'm saying like if he had waited like a year or two for Hulk to be out of the WWE or something to that effect, he probably would have been a little bit more successful. Because coming in, they didn't want to put them in a match together. They had to wait for when Hulk finally went to WCW, like stuff like that. I feel like Flair would have been just as popular because he had everything. He did. Like,
he did.
He had all the tools he needed. He arguably probably was a better worker than Hogan. Sorry, not sorry for saying that, but
it's not arguing. It's even Hogan would say that.
Exactly. So it's just I just feel that had there been some kind of a waiting period to put Flair in a mainstream spot, it probably would have been a lot more successful.
In his book, he talked about that he almost made the jump in '88. Vince had offered him the main event at SummerSlam against Savage for the title. Switch over.
Did it Mania anyways. So.
They did, but Savage was champion, and there would have been, the only thing I could think of is Flair would have beat Savage at SummerSlam, and it would have been Flair and Hogan at 5. I
wouldn't want to do that.
Then, well, because again, fantasy booking here. So you get Flair and Hogan at 5. And you get Savage and Hogan at 6.
Well, I would do it in reverse. That's why I'm saying I would want that. I would have still done the Mega Powers at 5, and then I would have done Hogan and Flair at 6. Instead of
why not move it a year?
I mean, to me, it's irrelevant. I'm just saying that at that point in time, I would have done it that way versus the other way around. I don't see any real wrong answer here, though, honestly. I'm just saying, me personally, I would have done it at 6 instead of 5, keep the Mega Powers where they are. You could still do Mega Powers at 6 instead of 5 and do Flair Hogan at 5. That doesn't bother me either way. I'm also just thinking out loud that I want to get the Warrior out of the main event one way or the other. So
that's true. No, hey, that's the real. He would have been probably the most affected by that move if Flair came in.
Good.
Warrior never would have happened. Warrior he might have beat Honky Tonk, but I don't think he would have been like.
Yeah, he still would have been IC champion, and I would have been fine with that. Keep him in the mid card. I'm fine with that. And
he probably would have. Maybe he would have taken I don't know. Like it. I don't think he would have been at the heights that because I think Flair would have been that spot. And I think you're right though. You could do 5. It still could be Hogan and Savage at 5, and then you do Hogan and Flair at 6. But I don't know. Like my thought process is like. If you do Savage and Flair at 88 SummerSlam, so you really don't have that real start and that spark to the Mega Powers. Because that kind of was the event that of started a bit of the rift. Because if you saw the end of it, with the blouse incident, Hogan picks her up, starts sashaying her around the ring, Savage catches it, and that was the first kind of like inkling of, oh boy. Yep. There's trouble here. That first little like hint of, okay, there might be a problem here. So you put that off a year because your thought process, and then you bring Flair in, you probably have Bobby Heenan managing him. And then too, you're going to get Tully and Arn by the end of that year. So now the thought is you do a 4 horsemen. Who's going to be the 4th guy? That's now that's my thought process.
New Horseman, anyways, but yeah.
Who would if it WWF 1988, 1989? So it's Flair, it's Tully, it's Arn. Who's the fourth guy?
Not Ole, that's all I can say.
It's not Ole.
Oh, shit.
So I think of three guys that I could think of off the top of my head. Haku, Rick Rude,
Yeah. Who's the third?
or maybe Rick Martel.
See, I could see Rick Martel. I can't really see Haku. Maybe unless it's as an enforcer or like an underling.
Haku would kind of be because you kind of would do what Haku was with Colonel Parker in like WCW in like '94. Remember when they had him kind of in the sunglasses with like the shirt, the suit kind of thing?
Yeah.
That would be kind of where he would be in that role of he would just be in the suit glasses and the suit and the sunglasses, and I could just see Hogan hitting him with a chair and it not affecting him, and fucking just putting him with a Tonga death grip, and Flair just kicking the shit out of him.
Yep.
Like it's just.
To be honest, like I don't even see that. I can see it as you say it, but I don't see it happening. But I think Rick Rude would be perfect.
Yeah, I think Rude would be it. I think Rude would be the fourth guy, and then
nothing against Martel.
you-
Like Martel, I could see them with them too. But for me, I think Rick Rude already had a great career going into this kind of time period. I think he had a couple decent runs doing different things, and I think this would have elevated him that much more too.
it would have been interesting too, because you wonder if they would have thought, because they only had 3 championships back then.
Yeah.
So what their thought process would have been, let's put all the belts on these guys and then just have them have the baby faces chase them. Which obviously you could do that because you go into WrestleMania 5, you have Rick Rude challenging or even defending an Intercontinental Championship if he's the champion at that point.
Yep.
And then Tully and Arn they're the tag team champions. So it almost makes sense if Flair is the champion going into 5 and then either losing or retaining against Hogan.
It would have been good because it would have been like an early invasion arc almost.
Oh, it would have been
Have
perfect.
the 3 of them come in, have a defector go join them, which could be Rude, perfectly fit for Rude, I feel like. And then they get all the gold. And I think that's the perfect way to have a WWF at the time team come out and chase them, whether that be, separately or together or do something at Survivor Series even, maybe. I think would be huge and it would have been perfect, but
How I would do it is I would have an injury angle where Savage is taken out. So then you go into WrestleMania. So then you're going into Survivor Series, and it's so that the 4 horsemen, which is Flair, Arn, Tully, and then Rude. And then then that's the main event. So that's your 4 kind of the 4 on 4.
right.
And then on the WWF side, I'd put the Hart Foundation. And
Wait, so hold on. What year are you talking about?
so we're talking Survivor Series 88.
Okay. Were the Steiners still
it's the
there at that point? I don't remember.
The Steiners?
Yeah, were they there in '88? I can't remember.
No, they were. They aren't even like on the radar at that
they were
point.
Like 90s then, okay.
Yeah, because Rick came in first, and I think that Scott was kind of doing the independent same thing first.
Okay.
They didn't become really a thing, I think, until like 89, 90, at least in WCW and WA. 88. So my thought process is you have the Hart Foundation, and then you have Tully and Arn on one side against them, and then so that's your tag team up there. My problem is that who's my third guy? Because my fourth guy is going to be Hogan. Who's the third guy? Because it can't be Savage.
I think that's even tough too, because I don't know that Hogan would mesh with them, with the Hart Foundation.
Hogan against Flair?
No, I mean mesh with his team. Like it's just kind of a weird team. I mean, if you're doing an invasion kind of arc, then I guess it doesn't matter.
It's like the team, like they need to band together to take these guys, even though it's really not considered an angle. Because you got to think about 88. 88's different where they really don't recognize other companies at that point. Like, especially.
Well, that's why I'm saying
WWF,
I think it'd be
it's
so
like,
cool to have that kind of arc at that time, too.
it would. Like, the people on the inside would know, like, the real smart marks of it. Obviously they would know because
it might I don't know. It might be zero.
well, because you think about 91. Did you know about Ric Flair like previously before he joined WWF in 1991?
No, I think I had to hear it through word of mouth.
Okay, because I remember vividly. Again, now because I was still kind of a newbie somewhat. But my uncle had books and I was reading books and I heard about Flair, but I didn't know about Flair.
Right.
Like, and then of course when he came in, and that's kind of when I got introduced to Flair. And then it's just like that. And then you're reading all the stuff and then you're realizing that was when I started to get introduced to like Pro Wrestling Illustrated. You're like, this guy was Wrestler of the Year like 5 times in the 80s. Like, what? Like, all the stuff you're looking at and you're just reading, like, he was champion for what, 2 years? Wait a second.
Something like that.
You're like all these numbers you're putting together at like 8 or 9 years old, and automatically you're thinking to yourself, you're like, Flair's better than Hogan, technically. Like, that was the first thing that came to my mind. It's like, Flair is better than Hogan. Like, look at these numbers. Like, look at this. All these match of the year candidates and things like that. Like, in that, but then the end of 91, going into that Rumble, you're thinking, he's the last possible guy that's going to win this fucking thing. Especially when he comes out at third. I'll never forget the words out of Bobby Heenan's mouth. All of a sudden, you see Flair in the black butterfly robe. No!
Oh my god!
Damn it!
Yeah.
And out comes Flair, and you're thinking, and again, Monsoon is just beating in your. It's no one who has ever drawn 1 through 5 has been there at the end. And an hour and like fucking 65 minutes later, you're just like, he's fucking still going. Jesus. He took every guy's finish that night. I think everybody that came out, he took at least, because I saw him take like Kerry Von Erich's discus punch at some point. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, he's getting killed. He's dying.
Stop, he's already dead.
I know. I'll never forget when it's just him and Big Boss Man in the ring, and then Boss Man eliminates himself. Flair stands up and does the Flair flop, and then Bobby is just like, he wins it. It's over. Just win it. And it's like Monsoon just looks at him and says, we're not even halfway through this yet. It's still like, why are you like? And the countdown starts, and I'm 7 years old. I'm 8 years old at this point, and I'm like, it's Piper. Piper's coming out, and all of a sudden, Piper runs out. You're just like, that was the first time I just knew what they were doing. Like, you knew, because as a wrestling fan, you've been there long enough. If you've been around long enough as a fan, you just know when certain things are going to happen. That was the first time it was just like everything. I kind of just figured it out and lined it up. I'm like, Piper's coming out. Piper's the first, and sure enough, Piper comes out. And you're just like, oh shit, he's going to die. And Piper's just killing the guy for 2 minutes, puts him in the sleeper. And you're thinking to yourself, Flair's going to limit. Nope, still in there. The fucking guy outlasted everybody. Every single top talent that you can think of. It's like Undertaker's in there. Hogan's in there. Piper's in there. Sid Justice is in there. Oh, how the hell is he outlasting all these guys? 8-year-old me. That's what I was thinking.
Oh man. I do kind of want to bring it back a little bit though, because obviously we're talking a lot of historical stuff. We didn't really talk too much about wrestling this week because ain't really much going on.
Yeah.
Couple
There's
other
a lot
things.
more other things that people were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Raw was like an afterthought after Tuesday for a lot of people.
Well, number one, it was taped.
That is true.
And then, it still did good numbers wise. I mean, but yeah, again, I think really telling where this bloodline story is going. It's like, again, it's bleeding into like both shows now. So you're wondering where that's going to go.
Well, we'll find out on Friday because Sami Zayn has been invited by Jey Uso over SmackDown for the weekday, whatever. So I guess we'll find out. But we have 2 new number 1 contenders, which I thought was kind of interesting, and kind of the way they did it. So I know I had kind of spoiled it for some people that I talked to because I did see the spoilers online because, like Dan said, it was pre-taped because they were still in Saudi Arabia. So that's why we heard Michael Cole and Corey Graves for another night. But so Io Sky won a Battle Royal, I believe, to be the number 1 contender for Liv Morgan's Women's World Championship. And Damian Priest, after losing to Dominic Mysterio the Monday before, won a fatal 4-way to become the number 1 contender for Gunther's World Championship. I felt like that one was a foregone conclusion that he was going to kind of challenge for that. How did you feel about Io Sky becoming a challenger for the Women's World Championship, though?
Well, I mean, she has a legitimate right. She was champion of SmackDown for quite a bit.
She was.
Yep. Yeah, and she needs to be Liv kind of needs something else than just Rhea, you know?
Well,
like she needs to be, especially now, but she just needs to be able to and Becky, you know, she needs to be able to move on and just have a feud with somebody that I think could work with anybody, make anybody really look good, and that's somebody with Io Sky. So I'm really happy for that. I'm glad Io is still kind of getting a mainstream push, and it kind of just isn't being like banished to like the tag team division with Kairi Sane, or at least kind of like holding place until Asuka comes back. Like, no, like I'm glad at least that she's kind of getting. Do I think she wins? I don't know, because
I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like it's really dependent on how long Rhea's going to be out.
Yeah.
I know the word is indefinitely. That doesn't mean that she can't come back earlier.
It definitely means shit in the wrestling business. I've heard that so many times.
Yeah.
And they're back a week later.
I mean, listen, if it's the 1990s, maybe she comes back with a Phantom of the Opera mask. We'll never know.
Hey, it worked for Taker that one time.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
That was sick. That was so good.
It worked for his character for sure, but
that worked for his Take character. I mean, because
it's definitely not working with what's her name, Katana Chance, Casey Catanzaro, and it's definitely not working for her with the bedazzled black mask. Just saying.
I think there's you gotta ditch that a little bit. You gotta get rid of that. That's not it's just not working. There's just certain things. It's just like nice try. It's just not working. It's just not working.
Bring back the undashing mask, give it to her, and then take it from there.
Or the t-shirt cannons, bring those back. What the hell? God.
It's funny you bring that up. I saw a video of Tommy Schimmel, the former announcer, getting hit with one of those.
Oh God!
Him going ballistic at the guy about it. Oh man, it was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, it was a decent Raw. I wasn't disappointed. I wasn't really thrilled by it either. I think I fell asleep at the Fatal 4-Way. I woke up to Damian Priest winning. I was like, oh, okay.
We've hit that age where it's just like 9 o'clock.
No, it's just no. It was the edibles actually, but that's besides the point.
No, of course, yes.
Yeah, that did me in.
All coping mechanisms, folks. Like, what do you want from us?
Hey, it was Monday. It wasn't Tuesday yet. It was Monday. I had
know.
nothing to really cope with except just life in general, I guess.
That's the thing.
Yeah. I know you were chomping at the bit though to talk about some of the ratings from yesterday though. So.
Oh yes. Oh, because last night NXT had to decided to, because of
The election.
the election. I think we should move to Wednesdays instead of Tuesdays. But Wednesdays has been defined and kind of been locked down by AEW for the last 5+ years, including at one point chasing NXT to Tuesday nights when they were on the USA Network. Now NXT is on CW, which does have more homes in the country, about 9%, according to Dave Meltzer. Because of course he's got to throw that out there.
It might be zero.
Maybe
Got to
zero.
throw that out there.
Maybe zero.
Because of the fact that NXT, which was preempted and had to move to another night because of the election, defeated AEW, which is a mainstay on Wednesday nights.
Yes, sir.
619,000 to 523,000. NXT does have the edge, bringing in 9% more homes as a network station. That, according to Dave Meltzer, as the 18 to 49 demographics, 0.17 for NXT and 0.16 for AEW. Both, I think, were hurt by political coverage, even though I don't think that really played that. I think after Kamala talked Wednesday afternoon, I think a lot of people kind of just said, all right, I think it's time for a change. So I don't think that was as much as as what are we going to listen to? Sean Hannity gloat for 2 hours about how Donald Trump is. No, you're going to want to watch other things, whether it's an NBA game or a WWE event or an NXT event, and
Literally
WWE
anything else.
So NXT stacked the deck. They decided to have a special show broadcasting from Philadelphia, not just in South Philadelphia, but at the ECW arena, the 2300 arena. They brought back Rob Van Dam, Bubba Ray Dudley. Everybody's just like, well, Rob literally did nothing. It's just like, Rob can literally do nothing. He just needs to show up. He's still, Rob Van Dam just needs to do this. And that's all we need.
Exactly.
That's all we need from Rob. We don't need anything else. We don't need anything else. Maybe the spin kick with the chair. That's fun. One of my favorite clips ever, one time, it was actually Bubba Ray Dudley and Rob Van Dam. And Alfonso threw a chair at him at Bubba Ray, and Bubba Ray caught it. And then all of a sudden, he just saw Rob out of the corner of her eye. You just hear, fuck! And Rob just clips him with a goddamn kick. He just fucking do it. He's like, why did I catch this?
Oh, man.
Damn it. And the fucking place just goes nuts. It's like, and that was the greatness of ECW. And NXT decided to have a show last night, which at the 2300 arena, it was live on CW Network, and they showcased some tremendous talent, including Trick Williams and that women's main event, my God, which not only included women from the NXT roster, but also women from other companies, including Jordan Grace.
Juggernaut, bitch.
Look, Jordan Grace pretty much just put her in WWE. This is going to be such a transition process of just like, so here's your badge, here's your contract, all that. Like everything is just kind of, it's there. It's like you're signed, but you're not officially signed. They just gotta wait for things to kind of end, and then that. But God, I am so happy that they were able to finally work out some kind of deal and just the last year and just present her to the public. And now it's just they really don't need like a transition of knowing who she is. They have an idea, and it's like ready made, like superstar. Here you go. Put her on TV, make her believable, have her beat some people for a while, and then you set up Rhea Ripley in like 2 years, if that, maybe 2 years.
And
it's just,
but yeah.
But now I when I'm talking 2 years, I mean not WrestleMania next year, but maybe the year after. Like I'm not. With 2 years, I'm thinking a year and a half. So a year and a half. Okay, we'll talk a year and a half. But a year and a half from now, and that's kind of my thought process towards that. And it's just you also have a challenger for Bianca Belair. You have a challenger for Jade Cargill, and it's nice to see someone that I think is extremely talented that I've really had my eye on as far as talent is concerned. And I think that, and it's not just, I don't want to sound, I don't want people to think that I have any, where I seem to have more of an eye for talent when it comes to women and females now, because with males, it's just more, there's a lot of male talent in the wrestling industry where it's very hard to kind of pick them out. There's a lot of kind of same guys.
That's true. I think a lot of guys are cookie cutter though.
That's the problem.
And
that's the thing.
Yeah, like that's what I see, because like the best example is LA Knight. And I know there's people that, like, oh, what about Joe Hendry? And it's like, we'll talk about him in a second. But it's like, you look at guys like LA Knight who put in the work year after year, was on NWA, was on TNA, was on NXT, is now on the main roster on SmackDown. And the guy has been money. And like, you throw anything at this guy and he fucking makes money. And you saw that especially in NWA, TNA, when he was Eli Drake, and he's doing the same stuff he did back then.
Yes.
And it's still making money because the guy has the look, he has the moves, and he has the mic skills, especially, where a lot of guys are missing one of those key ingredients. LA Knight has all three of them. And that was why a lot of the talent in the Attitude Era was so successful, because they also had all three. You look at guys like The Rock, like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I know there's people that might disagree, but at the time, Chris Jericho, you had a lot of guys that had all three of these key ingredients. LA Knight is exactly that guy. I would make the argument that Trick is becoming that guy. All Ethan Page, make the argument, maybe doesn't have the look of some of those guys that I just mentioned, but he has the other two pieces for sure. And there's a lot of talent on the indie scene that is missing something that these guys are not. Or in some cases of other talent in other promotions that I will not name, they're missing all three. Or they're missing two, but they have one. And listen, like, you can build around those guys and you can maybe give them good talent to put on good matches, because let's be real, that's just as important, the in-ring chemistry that you have with your partner. But at the same token, like I said, it's a lot easier to kind of miss those pieces, and to your point, with men, where I know where you're going with it, so I'll just kind of tack on to this with the women talent. I think part of the problem with women talent in general is our perception of them, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh well, they're not that good looking. Like Piper Niven, I know gets shit on still sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, me either, because she's a phenomenal talent. Just because she is not a stick figure does not mean that she cannot be a talented professional wrestler or entertainer or anything. Nia Jax, same thing. There are people that do not find muscles on women to be attractive and therefore shit on their talent because of that. And I see that. And it's just like, okay, well, just because you feel that way does not mean they're not a good wrestler or not a good, sports entertainer or whatever the hell you want to call it, depending on your opinion of definitions here. But Jordan Grace, to kind of come full circle to where you started with this, is just an exceptional talent. She's got a look and a power that a lot of women do not have, and that's what makes her so engaging to watch. And you could say the same about Jade Cargill, about Bianca Belair, but they've also signed a lot of other women talent recently that do not have the same physique of the women I just mentioned, like Juliana, like Stephanie Vaquer, that are still just as talented. They just wrestle a different style. There's nothing wrong with that, because WWE also has a certain style that the majority of its wrestlers also utilize. It's like you go and look at a Will Ospreay and a Ricochet match, and it's like, okay, they're doing a lot of flips and stuff, but they're both dog shit on the mic, in my opinion.
They are.
And I feel like they both really don't have a high level of charisma. They do in the ring, don't get me wrong, but when they get on the mic, no. So I think it's just the way we kind of judge talent overall at times is just a little bit different. I think you and I agree on most of the talent that's in there today in either of those promotions that we mentioned. And I think when we look at it that way, we're able to see like Britt Baker is a prime example, right? Where is she the most talented woman on the roster? Probably not, but she's up there.
She's all right.
I think she's clunky, but overall, I have to give her credit. Like, she's cleaned herself up in terms of some of the stuff she's doing in the ring. She's not awful on the mic, and she's got a decent look. It's unique. I mean, I can't hate it. So
she was probably the strongest drawing champion they had, in my opinion, as far as women is concerned.
I mean,
she definitely did better than like Mercedes and others.
That's not saying much, but
I wouldn't say. But you know what? I can't shit on Toni Storm because I love what Toni Storm did.
Toni Storm was able to invent herself in a way that I would not have thought was possible.
No, me neither. Like, I didn't even, just completely out of the blue, where I'm just like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I love this. And I'm just like, how did this happen all of a sudden? Like, I absolutely adore this. And she's, I understood why she needed to, felt kind of crappy with what was going on in WWE, and I was like, at first when she signed with AEW, I'm like, oh, but she regrets it. But now I'm like, yeah, because Turner Classic Movies has been able to work with her. Like, she's really kind of upped her profile.
I think
so. It's
with
like
her, she's the best way to say it is like the exception to the rule, because and you and I talked about a couple earlier, right? Where we talked about Malachi Black. Or Aleister Black, whatever you want to call it.
We'll talk. Oh god, that whole situation is a nightmare.
Yeah, it just keeps getting weirder and weirder because
it's annoying and it's dumb.
It's the second or third time it's happened with him.
Yes,
that's the thing.
Go ahead. I hated to cut you off about Toni Storm. I'm sorry.
No. The thing with Malachi or Aleister Black, though, I think it's just important to bring up as well because it's the same conversation where we talk about people that have left WWE, whether that be from NXT or from the main roster, whatever. And I think the two of them and Adam Cole are perfect examples of like the grass is only as greener as much as you water it. And the reason I say it that way is because Toni Storm was able to kind of reinvent herself and got herself over.
Yes.
I think that is all Toni Storm. I do not believe for a second that is Tony Khan.
Oh, I agree. No, 100%. That's all her. And I think that, when her time for contract renewal, because now there are more people that I think are perceptive to creative ideas and also more accepting to creative ideas.
Yep.
And that other people wouldn't be, that wouldn't be as controlling, it would kind of give them more freedom. And I think Tony would realize that and maybe kind of take that act over to another audience and kind of do bigger and better things with it. And also maybe a platform. She might have to tone it down a little bit, but with Netflix, she might not also have to.
Well,
I think.
So hold on. You bring up a good point. So just, I don't want to cut you off here, but I think this is a perfect example of the differences there, right? Because let's look at it not as those three, but as two women talent that have jumped to different ships.
Yes.
So you have Toni Storm that jumped from WWE, NXT over to AEW, has been incredibly successful, right?
Yes.
And again, I think part of that, if not the majority of that, is due to her own work. I think if we look at the flip side and we look at Jade Cargill coming over from AEW to WWE, I think she was so built up and at first fell a little bit flat, but has slowly kind of gotten better and become a fan favorite.
Yes.
And I don't think she's really had to change much because they stuck her in a tag team division that has gotten relatively stacked right as she was kind of joining WWE, I feel like. You had, you had two of them. You had Damage Control. You had some NXT teams like Metaphor, for example, who just was in the PLE. You had Chelsea and Piper. You have whatever the hell PFC or whatever the hell. I don't even know. It's funny that you started laughing because you knew exactly what I was going for.
I do.
And you had, what was that? Caden Carter.
The Unholy Alliance.
The Unholy Alliance. Yeah. There were a lot of tag teams that were right there at the time. But she has kind of managed to work with Bianca and get herself better. And now she's pretty much over on her own. Yeah, she's had a couple singles matches, but nothing like huge. Yeah, she had the face-off with Bianca in the Battle Royal on Monday or Sunday, depending where and when you watched. But I think all of those things kind of matter. But I would say the difference is the presentation, right? Because Jade is kind of doing this with a partner, number one, and also, let's be real, WWE is holding the reins. I don't feel that way about Toni Storm. I feel Toni is doing the bulk of this by herself and saying, here's what I want to do. And Tony Khan is like, okay, cool. But I don't know. Like we look at some of these different characters that have come over, like Malachi Black, for example, just real quick, because this is the second or third time he's in the news because people are like, hey, you're not on television. Are you hurt? Are you retiring? Are you coming back? Are you jumping ship? What are you doing? And I feel like the Adam Cole story is just like, holy crap. Like, talk about somebody that should not have left WWE. It's Adam Cole.
I mean, he's with this MJF angle, which MJF is in another angle where there's a gauntlet and you have to beat all these guys for me. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? You're doing this again? Like, you can't come up with anything else for somebody to come after you of like, it has to be the same thing of like, you have to beat these people. Like, oh, for Christ's sake. It's so lazy.
It is.
It's so lazy. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing that you were doing 5 fucking years ago. And that's the problem because a year ago, 2 years ago, I was singing your fucking praises. But now you drive me fucking crazy.
I don't. I
You
think
drive
it's on
me
Tony Khan.
fucking crazy.
I don't think that's on him. I think it's on Tony Khan.
No, I do. I know it's on Tony. And it's like, because now it's like, it's no longer to the point of where he's saving it. Like, he can't save it. Like, that's the problem. It's now, it's just shit. It's just bad. It's not good. And that's the problem I have. I'm just like this. It's the same thing he did with Jericho. It's the same thing he did with CM Punk. It's the same thing, dude. It's just the same thing again. And it's just like, are you kidding me? And I'm not trying to be a dick because I love MJF. I love him. I think he's great. But it's the same shit, dude. And it's not on him. I feel like it's Tony because it's just, because the angle doesn't make sense, number one. Because again, it's Adam Cole who fucked over a babyface MJF and screwed him out of the title.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, like 11 months later, it's just like, fuck you, dude. And it's like, for what? What did I do? You fucked me over. Like, it's just this, and that's what it is. That's what I feel like this whole angle is. And it's dumb. And now they got Roderick Strong involved, which I fully expect Roderick Strong is going to fuck Adam Cole over. It's like, it's going to be, it's just, yeah, exactly. There's like 900 things. And it's just, but again, I see it coming a mile away.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Like, and that's the problem I have. Like, you know, I thought about it earlier, and it's just, I'm getting to the point with Tony Khan where it's like, look, Tony, call me. Really, dude. Really. You don't even have to fucking pay me. You can just fly me down to Jacksonville, get me on a private plane, and you put me up in some suite somewhere. And like, me and you can talk about wrestling, and then I can tell you what I honestly think, what you should do with your talent, and also be able to give you some type of direction on what you should do with some of these guys. Because it's just, you have a lot of good talent, and you have a lot of people working for you that know what the fuck you're doing. And I heard that your television production guys, you're like, we're going to up our game in 2025.
I heard about
There's other things you need to do.
Yeah.
There's other things you need to do besides your production. Your production's fine. It's everything else that's the problem. Like, it's everything else. Do you need to maybe fine tune the things production wise? Of course you do. You're still kind of young in the game, but there's still things I'm just like, you shouldn't be doing that now. Like, there was some VTR one time that went on like longer than it should have. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate anything about the production really, because like when I remember first watching it at you know,
Boo Ran.
that person's behest. You know, I'm sorry.
Boo Ran.
You're a closet fan no matter what you say on me.
He watched it more than anyone.
I know. It's because I watched the Big Bang Theory. Dude, you're 41. Why are you even admitting you watched that in the first place?
My mom watched that show. That's when I was like, this show blows.
Yeah,
I was like, my mom.
It's funny.
I love you, Mom.
I was up a couple days ago, and my father watches it too. So I no.
Oh God.
Yeah. So yeah, same boat. Anyways, I digress. You really are a close fan though. Anyways, can't help myself. Anyways, I remember watching it the first time, and this is probably like 2021. And I honestly thought that aside from Cody's pyro going on for way too long, because this was when Cody was still there, obviously, when I watched it.
Yeah.
I just felt that they should have leaned into the indie vibe that it gave off and lean into it more, right? Because that's kind of what separates it, is the fact that it's an indie show. it's almost like TNA and NXT and Power, God forbid, where those are indie shows too. Even though they're
Right.
coming from established promotions, if you will, we know that. But it still gives off that indie feel. So lean into it more. And instead, they increase the production value. Instead, they bring in celebrities to sit ringside or get involved and then do stupid stuff. And I remember, I
They
think
can't
it
even
was
get a celebrity right now.
they did.
I haven't.
then.
I know they did
But
back
yeah.
then, but like I've right now they are. I haven't seen anybody endorse them. Anybody around.
Can't imagine why.
I just it's been just no one's talked about them. No one's talking about them. No one is. It's just they're cold as
They
cold
suck,
can
yeah.
be.
Because they suck. I mean,
It's
listen, like
yeah.
you brought in these guys. When have you done with them? You put on like a couple good matches here and there, and then you don't have them on TV again for like a couple weeks, and like it's inconsistent. Like, and I get it from a certain perspective. Like, we all know that rosters become bloated after a while, but I for a guy that says I'm not going to be the next WCW, that's exactly what you did. Like, sorry, not sorry. That's exactly what you did. But even if you take all these things out of the equation, right? Like you don't see LA Knight every week. You see him most of the time. But you don't see him every week. You might miss a week or two, but then he's on TV regularly. Roman's off TV for months, and he comes back, and he's on TV pretty consistently now, which I'm shocked at, by the way. And I feel like I've seen Roman more than half of the AEW talent for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And dude, Roman opened a show. I was like, what? What is going on right now? And with WCW, man, it's you said it best when you talked about Adam Cole and this MJF thing. So they leave it as Adam Cole is the heel and MJF is the face. That's how they leave it. And then months later, MJF comes back and he's the heel again, and then Adam Cole's the face. Like,
Yeah, well, no, I thought they ended it earlier in the year because they had Adam Cole, who was still the heel, and MJF coming back. He was still the baby face. And that was like MJF's first time coming back. And then, but Cole wasn't ready. But I thought it was the end of it because they did the angle, and
So
I
did
thought that was
I.
it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, we still got heat. It's just like, what?
It's
I thought
just
this was it.
yeah.
And it's just, again, it's just, I don't know.
It's,
And now it's just like, oh, you have to beat these people before you can get to me. It's like, we're going to that again?
it's
Like, this
it's
is fucking lazy.
It is. And, I get it from a perspective of they want to do something different. And that's what I was trying to say before, where, yeah, and you said it too, where, okay, we're going to do this new production thing next year in 2025. And we're not going to be, like, I don't even know what the hell they said. Something like it's a group.
They're going to be
we're
more
hiring.
sports based. It's like, yeah, but that hasn't worked.
Yeah, but
You
can still
said that
do
5 years ago.
sports-based. You can still do sports based and still have some underlying story. Like, that's the thing that I don't understand. Like,
I hate
okay,
it.
let's look at it objectively for a second, right? The NFL, the NHL, the NBA, MLB, like whatever, man. Any sport is just a game. But within those games, there are still, guess what? Underlying stories. You might have a player that's injured. You might have two players that are injured. You might have a player that just got off a parole. You might have a player that just got off a 15-game injured reserve list and it's first game back. Like, all these things happen in the progression of a season of a sport. But, hey, let's just have a random match for the sake of having a random match. Like, why am I invested in this match? Tell me that. Why should I care that Adam Cole just came back and wants to face MJF? Why should I care? If you only book week to week and it's a sports-based platform, why should I care about any of that? what are your commentators going to then talk about? Because all these sports that I just mentioned, commentators talk about those things. So are they then going to talk about just what's going on inside the ring at that given time and not talk about anything about the matches that they've had before or the history that they might have had in another promotion or any of those things? Like, you have to give me something to make me invested. And if all you're doing is booking week to week because that's what you feel is going to be successful, I'm going to say two things. First of all, you're fucking wrong. Second of all, okay, fine, do it that way, but I have no reason to then be invested in it. And I think that's where he just doesn't understand the product, which baffles me because for the first year plus, it's going up against NXT and chase them off of Wednesdays. So what the hell happened? Why are you now cowering against NXT of all things? When you just
can't even get 700,000 people to watch every week.
He can't even be consistent with his numbers anymore. Regardless of whether
Rampage
that's
is going to get canceled next year. I mean,
yeah.
Well, Rampage is done, but they're going to still have Collision, and they're still going to be able to get. They're going to be able to get on pay-per-view on Max, which actually they did announce that they had 7.5 million subscribers, I guess, new subscribers for the Max platform. But of course, I don't think that they're really saying that might be part of the Disney bundle. Because that's which, you know, it's a good deal, but they can't sit there and be like, oh, hey, and AEW can't take credit for that either, because again, they're not on there yet. So I don't want anybody, it's 7.5 million people want it. No, you're dreaming. Let me explain why. Again, because you have to look at the quarter and say, here's when it's happened.
Well, it's not even that. It's first of all, it's the bundle, like you said. Second of all, it could be, hey, they just announced this new show on HBO that people might want to watch. It could be, 7.5 in a quarter could even, and listen, like, is it likely that all of this is true? No, but there's still layers to this, which is why we're talking about it, of course. And part of that layer is also, hey, I want to sign up for service with your company. What kind of packages do you have? Okay, cool. You're going to give me HBO free for 6 months? Cool, I'll take that. Like all that happens. So when you talk about 7.5 million in a quarter, maybe it's all of those things combined. Because let's be real. It ain't about the AEW PLEs yet. Because they haven't had any on Max yet.
No.
If you're going to sign up for a Max just for AEW, first of all, God bless you. Please get yourself evaluated at a mental health facility. On top of that, you're not going to do it until the first day they have a pay-per-view that's on there. You're just not.
They live in a place where they have to take the shoelaces away from them. I was
going to say something else, but I think you've said enough already.
I've said enough. I think I said what I needed to say.
I was going to say sharp objects, but, then kind of realized a little bit further about what you were actually saying without saying it. I'm like, oh, no, he's right.
See, I said it, but see, look at me. I was able to finally come up with it and say, oh, he went the way that he should have, finally, instead of just being like, oh, yeah. No, it's annoying because I look at the company and I'm just like, I can fix this.
They have the talent,
but I can fix it.
Fix it 100%.
And it's the John Moxley neo-Nazi group has to end. Like, it's just, why is this American History X now every week on TV? Like, it
is weird. Yeah.
It's so funny too, how John Moxley no-sold the I almost said the Street Profits, but I think people understand the type of people I'm talking about. Private Party.
Yeah, Private Party.
The Private Party. How like Moxley no-sold them trying to kick their ass a few weeks ago, and then all of a sudden they beat the Bucks and finally win the tag team championship. It's just like, that makes sense.
What's the expression? A tangled web we weave. I feel like WWE. did
How many
last year
times
so
can
too.
one company have 2 hostile takeovers in 1 year? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, they tombstone him, and it's in his hometown fucking building and that Daly's Place thing in Jacksonville. They tombstone the boss, Tony Khan. He's wearing the goddamn neck brace on the NFL draft, looking absolutely ridiculous. He's going on TV looking, again, absolutely ridiculous. But they decide after like a month and a half,
The most
after a
dangerous
couple
move
weeks.
in WWE, and the most dangerous move in wrestling, the Meltzer driver. Yeah, I mean, you don't see any other NFL owners taking that most dangerous move in wrestling. Shut up, Tony.
I mean, I'm sure Belichick wants to give fucking Robert Kraft it, but somehow pay.
100%.
Yeah, like he wants to be able to pay someone to do it. Like if you
still
pay the Young
fucking
Bucks to do
hate-
it.
I still hate that that's the name of the fucking move.
Yeah, but you know what? If the Young Bucks decided to hit the Meltzer driver on Robert Kraft, I think you and I would have a different type of respect for the Young Bucks. Like we would both kind of be like, all right.
I don't know how to answer that. I feel like I would probably just like stand up and just be like, Citizen Kane, just start clapping. And now my dogs are barking because I'm clapping.
it's you, and you're just looking at the Bucks. You're just like, all right.
I can't believe that me
we should have
clapping
points.
downstairs in the basement made this dog bark right now. What a fucking
Dogs have
asshole.
that super hearing. Let me tell you.
No, she's just an asshole. I probably would just golf clap, honestly. I just would. Even though it made my dog bark just now, I probably would still do it again. That's besides the point. But listen, I think that he does need to do something and just give away the reins. I just everything he's been doing the last 2.5 years, I feel like yeah, some of it's decent TV. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. But then there's other stuff that I'm like, what are you doing? Like, if I know we talked about this one previously, whether it be on this platform or on other platforms, where we talked about the some of the stuff they've done around Christmas, some of the stuff they've done around Easter, especially.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's like, I get it. You're trying to push a certain envelope here, but there's really no reason to push it. Like,
They've skated a bunch. They have.
Yeah.
There have been some instances where I was just like, oof. I remember they did the quarter thing. That was that involved MJF. I was just like, oh no! Like they just did things that just were in really poor taste. That I think.
Yeah.
Could have really, if it was WWE, I think WWE, I don't think it is in a position where they would have done anything like that again. They kind of
I feel like
towed the line a
WWE
little bit
is
with
too
the Undertaker.
big for that stuff now. Like I think they're so big that they're so like cognizant of some of that stuff now that they just won't do it.
Well, I think there's that part of it, and they,
It's also
they just
tailored
don't.
to kids a lot more now too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they can't have the Undertaker or Stone Cold Steve Austin strapped to a cross anymore. Yeah, they don't want to do that.
That's definitely not what I was thinking of. But you're also not wrong that they really can't be doing that anymore.
Or Big Boss Man getting hung in effigy in a WrestleMania match. Just like, what the fuck am I watching?
I'm thinking more of like the gratuitous stuff, but you're also not wrong about the stuff.
That's not gratuitous. Like, come on.
I mean gratuitous in the other ways, and I think you know that.
Are we talking about Armageddon '99 with the cat?
Yes. Yes, we are.
I love how I just have to mention that show with people and they automatically know what I'm talking about. It's like,
listen, I could have
Armageddon '99, the cat, right?
I could have said Sable with the body paint. Could have said that one.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
That was fantastic. Was that a moment where Mom walked into the room for you? You're just like,
I think that was a moment where I immediately turned the station for 5 seconds. It's like all those like memes you see about like, you know, wrestling when I'm watching, wrestling when Mom walks in, Game of Thrones when I'm watching, Game of Thrones when my significant other walks in. Like, that was that moment.
No.
That was that moment for me. It's like, oh, I'm going to turn that off for 5 seconds now.
I had it happen to me one time. It was an ECW pay-per-view, and it was the one with the Dudleys during that Heat Wave 99 rant. Oh, my God. Oh, that went over that went over great. Some of the lines that were thrown that night, and it's just like if I was younger, I would be banned from watching wrestling, but I was around the time of like I at least somewhat skated.
It wasn't wrestling for me. It was always like Beavis and Butthead. It was always like I'd replay an audio clip of it, and I think finally, like, because you've been in my house, you know that we had that office put in like behind the kitchen.
Yes.
And shit. So I'd be in there like with the speaker on or whatever, replaying clips of Beavis and Butthead, and sometimes The Simpsons.
South Park.
I didn't really play South Park as much. South Park was like a couple years later, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
And it was like there's one Krusty has the phone and he has a card and he's like, ooh, sex chat. I replayed that like 3 times. And my mother's making dinner and she's like, whatever the hell you're watching there, you better stop.
God.
Oh, God.
My parents are pretty cool. My parents are pretty cool with that stuff. I'll admit that.
I mean, listen, like she could have came in and gave me a ration of shit. So I do actually give my mom some credit for that one.
My mom liked The Simpsons. I think Family Guy got a little too much for her.
See, she didn't really watch The Simpsons, my mom. Like, she knew about it, but, like, that office had, like, its own, like, TV. It didn't have, like, a box to it or anything.
Right.
It was more like, hey, here's a room where you can play video games and not bother anybody. I feel like at some points. And there's some stuff you can catch on it, other stuff we'd swap rooms around depending on like the night or whatever. Or just go up to their room. They had a cable box and weren't really in there unless it was like when they were going to bed. So a lot of stuff like The Simpsons I could catch downstairs anyways. Beavis and Butthead, either nobody had to be home or I'd go in their room before they went to bed or whatever. What's that? My mom was in the office and she could hear Beavis and Butthead. I don't think she knew what it was, but she could hear kind of like the conversation they were having.
Oh, God.
She walked in and she's like, what's that? And I'm like, I'm slipping around. And she's like, you were definitely not flipping around. What was it? And I go, I don't know. I wasn't paying enough attention. I was, zoning out or whatever. I think I said.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Mom, I'm sorry. I used to watch Beavis and Butthead behind your back. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's another thing you could probably get me for now. I apologize.
it's funny now because my mom, I think, looks at it with endearment, and it's also quite hysterical when I have because you've been by the house how I set up for Halloween. I had my my Michael Myers blow up out. She's just like, it's cute, and a part of me is just sitting there, and I'm just like, but you hate him. Like you can't watch these films. Everything he stands, you can't like. Again, it's the conversation we had.
Because I actually don't think your
ago.
mom knows, to be honest. We had the conversation,
Yes.
and I didn't say it then, but I really think that your mom probably doesn't even remember it's actually Michael Myers, that's supposed to be, that blow up.
I will say that she did ask me after Ends. She's just like, did Jamie Lee make it? I said yes. She's like, I'm happy. I'm like, okay. I said, you're the only person that's happy about that film. I said, she's just like, as long as she lived, I'm like, yeah, she lived. I'm like,
That's
yeah,
fucking
she
funny.
lived.
That's funny.
But she's like, yeah, she was happy because actually she was with me one time when I bought a figure set, and it happened to be Lori and Dr. Loomis. And she's just like, wow, that actually looks like Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm like, yeah, they really have detail now down. And she was like really impressed.
That's
like
cool.
she from that standpoint, because she's always like Jamie Lee Curtis, so she's happy that she was happy in the end that she walked out of Ends. I was just like, yeah, I wasn't happy at all. Like, so
Yeah.
All right.
well,
Well, it's been a short wrestling week, especially since we did the live show on Saturday. But we still
I think
wanted to
people
do
also
something.
understood that this episode was probably going to be a little all over the place.
Yeah, most likely. Hopefully.
Probably because of the fact of it was a slow wrestling week, but
Yeah.
a lot of other things were happening around the world.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what SmackDown holds, especially for the Bloodline story, because I don't think that's over yet.
Of course.
I feel like there's still more to tell with this Randy Orton and KO situation as well. We don't know if Cody is going to have a new challenger yet as well, like Gunther does on Raw. So there's a lot of unknowns, and Survivor Series is fast approaching at the end of the month after Thanksgiving, so we'll kind of have to see what that all is going to look like as well. But for this week, yeah, I wanted to keep it a little bit lighter given everything going on in the world this week, but still talk a little wrestling anyways.
Yes, we were able to get a little wrestling in. And again, people, wherever you are, if you're in the United States and you're stressed out about the situation, give it time. Hopefully things will kind of calm down. You'll make peace with certain situations of or realize that maybe things that you're worried about are maybe unattainable or things that aren't going to happen. Like I said earlier, there are certain things that I am worried about. There are other things now that I'm like, I actually feel kind of safer about. But that's a conversation, I think, for another day. Who knows? Again, it's another situation of there are going to be certain days of what the fuck's he going to do? But we'll live with it. And I think we shall prevail, as we all have. We've lived through quite a bit in the existence of this great nation, also this great planet, to be quite honest, wherever you're listening from. I understand we're big in Germany. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think
Like,
I don't think their government's doing well either, actually, right now.
No. A lot of them, they're just like, what is happening?
Jeez.
We like Dan? Well, okay.
Yeah.
But again, folks, don't let the results of for most of us, we should have a 3-day weekend ahead. So I think everybody needs to kind of take their time in the next 3 days and kind of just relax. Maybe take a break from social media. Maybe just take a break from just Yeah, just
go smoke a bowl, man.
chill, man. Just chill, man. Have a couple of drinks.
Ooh, don't mind if I do.
Have a few smokes, like just enjoy yourself. Kind of just partake in things because, again, we all still have to do the same thing. All of us are going to have to work. All of us are going to have to keep grinding, provide for our families. Nothing's going to change. So from that end, we have to be able to kind of live with that and also live with each other and be good to each other. But not try to gloat and rub it in people's faces because, again, your situation might be different from other people's situations. And vice versa. People need to realize that and also accept that, yeah, the guy you want to win won, but the person next door to you might be terrified because of either rhetoric or other things that are happening around the country and other groups and other factions, little pockets that are trying to, look, there's a lot of misinformation out there. But at the same time, we got to fucking buckle up. We got to be ready for anything. Good things and bad things. It's every presidency nowadays, it feels like.
Yeah.
It's not just Trump. It's not just Joe. I felt like that with Obama. I felt like Bush. I felt like it was constant dread for 8 years, but that's beyond the point. I feel like now, for different reasons. For different reasons. But I have to try to look optimistic at it. I have to look at the next 4 years from now and with optimism and not try to be always pessimistic and think the worst of things. And I think that that's what everybody should do. And that's kind of my final thoughts for tonight. So Mac, thanks again for joining me on this ride. Be sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube under Diamond Podcasting Productions for PWW Talks. Also look for PWW Talks on Spotify. And of course, our second Apple plug of the program earlier, because Mac just slipped that one in. I
said all three.
Oh, you did. Yes, you did. But the way you were able to just be like, speaking of Apple, it's like perfect. So be sure to check us out there. Be sure to also follow the Pro Wrestling World on Facebook as well. Saw some Manny clips earlier, so good Lord. We'll have to do a scroll episode soon so we can take some of these guys to task.
It's funny because I was like, we could just do that. But I felt like since we did Facebook Live so recently, I was like, we'll give it like a week or two. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, plus, this episode I think needed to kind of be a little casual.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Not trying to kind of critique or make fun of. I didn't want to make fun of people tonight, except maybe AEW people, but that's besides the point.
The only thing I'm going to add.
I want to stay consistent, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the only thing I'm going to really add here is like, there's a bunch of groups of people, and I think everybody falls into different categories here with the general election we're talking about. And I just want to say this. If you didn't vote, don't complain. Just going to throw that out there. You're entitled to your thoughts about the election, but don't complain about it. You voted for one and not the other, which I'll leave open to your own interpretations, and you're upset about it. You're entitled to that. But, the people that objectively are like, oh, well, he's going to fail or we want him to fail. I'm sorry, but you are what's wrong with the country. Like, we should not want the president.
Fail.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way I
should not want him to fail.
I don't want him to fail.
Fails.
I don't want him to have egg on his face. I want him to succeed. I want the country to succeed.
Exactly.
I want us to succeed. I want me to succeed. I want you to succeed. I want your guy down the street. I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to make money. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be safe. That's what I want.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
the fact is that this is the guy who's going to be running it for the next 4 years. I've accepted it. I'm going to live with it. See where it goes.
Yep.
That's all I can do.
Exactly.
I'm not moving. I'm not leaving the country. I'm staying here. I'll deal with it.
Well,
Live with the consequences. Oh well.
I'll just say it this way: if you can move and you want to move, especially if the country starts going to shit, God bless. I'll be right there with you. I'll be right there with you. But other than that, no, I'm gonna stick around.
You're just like, fuck this. Punch out Maverick. Like I said, I'd rather be in the blast. I'd rather die in the blast than be in the fallout. It's the way my life wants to go. There's no way I could live in a fallout. No way. No way.
See, when you and our other friend who were talking about that the other day, I'm just like, oh, I'll hop out and I'll avoid the fallout. But what I didn't say is all I could think about is the Fallout games and shown. You guys started talking about that shit.
I tried playing Fallout 4,
3 is
and then I was dealing with it. When I started dealing with the insects, I was like, fuck this.
Yeah, those things are fucking annoying. Yeah. I like
fuck
3
this.
better. I know there's people that like 4 better. I like New Vegas a lot. But I will say that even if you're not a fan of the games, the show is a fun watch. The show is absolutely hysterical. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Not that I finally watched it after all.
Exactly right. I got so many shows I got to catch up on.
I know, it's tough. It's tough. I'm still way behind on a lot of shows, but
And plus, it's this as well, because it's a 52-week gig, and it's just you got to be able to keep up with the norms of everything that goes on. So it's just watch a lot of this stuff and analyze stuff. So
yeah, man, it's tough, but
I love it.
Exactly,
it's fun.
All right,
So.
I'm good. You good?
Yes, I'm good. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
See you next time.